Hello and welcome to episode 118 of the HamCorp Training Manual. In this episode, we solve our chlorine shortage using 64 electrolyzers and another space mining module. I also invent a new method to automate Meteor mining using railcraft water tanks, of all things. Along the way, we also craft the Mark I and Mark II compact fusion controllers. You know, something I should do, probably, is make more circuit assembly lines. I'm still using one for each. And I've noticed very often that circuits, just crafting the circuits, are my time bottleneck. So that might be something good to work on as well. Two things I didn't show in the previous episode that I probably should have. First of all, I have more Naquata reactors. Now I have 4. So this is a grand total of like 1.6 billion EU per tick. Feels good. Feels very good. The other thing that I didn't show is I've set up more space pumping modules. And I've also set up a little bit of redstone logic for automation. So there's a machine controller cover and a fluid level emitter. And it basically says if there's less than 2 billion of the appropriate fluid, turn on the module. All the fluid is stored in here in this drive. All these cells are stickied. So I've got hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, which I'm apparently out of, and ammonia. Also, I realized after setting this up that the pump actually doesn't need computation. So these 3 should really all just be mining modules because I don't think the assembler needs computation either, since there's no computation requirement on NEI. Now, the first thing I want to do is solve chlorine. And to do that, I'm going to use a space mining module. Specifically, I'm going to be mining salt ore, and I'm going to have to figure out some kind of dedicated storage so that it doesn't just overflow and fill every single storage slot that I have. But once I figure that out, I'm going to have a mining module specifically for salt, because one of the meteors has a 100% spawn rate at a certain distance and a certain mining drone tier. So I'll set that up, and I've also crafted up a stack of electrolyzers. I'll figure out the details on my own time, but that's how I'm going to be getting my chlorine. This will also get me infinite sodium and infinite potassium, along with infinite saltpeter. And you might have seen in the beginning, I'm crafting my compact fusion computer Mark I. This of course is not going to get built, it's just going to get scanned to be able to make the Mark II fusion computer. And once that's done, I'll try to do a request and see what I'm missing, because I'm definitely going to be missing some stuff. Okay, giant wall of electrolyzers. I tried to do a little bit of smart sharing over here as much as I could. You could do even better if you, instead of having a front-facing wall, if you split it into a back-facing wall as well. You could probably octuple share the auto-taping maintenance hatches, for example. But I think just a wall of electrolyzers would look so cool. And it should be the face of a petition to add a mega electrolyzer. Or some kind of better electrolyzer than this, because this one kind of sucks, actually, compared to other multis of the same tier. But everything has its own energy hatch. I'm quad sharing the mufflers. I'm quad sharing the maintenance hatches. I'm quad sharing the stocking input buses. I'm quad sharing the output buses, except on the ends, quite similar to my Vulcanist setup. And I'm quad sharing the ME output hatches, except for the ends. Now all that's left is to actually finish these multis. And I am not placing these by hand. Alright, it's been set up. I made a little building. It's nothing fancy. It's a cube. I think I'll do a building stream at some point in the future to actually decorate this thing, but for now it's just a cube. Got a catwalk. I added this active transformer so I could branch off some power. 64 amps of ZPM going into this wall of electrolyzers. And all that's left to do is for me to place this controller here, and then everything should come online. Let me quickly also just say that the way I have this set up is I have an ME chest here with a partitioned chlorine cell. All my chlorine is going to be here. I also have my sodium dust and potassium dust in these cells. I need to also set up some kind of overflow voiding. Actually, I can do that here. Oh god, I'm gonna have to go through every single electrolyzer. Okay, I'll do that. But one more thing I want to say is that this is its own subnet. This is not actually on my chemicals plant subnet. But here I basically have kissing interfaces and buses. And that's how I interface with the whole system. Another thing I've done back here, this is the actual chemicals building. I have these fluid storage buses and storage buses. What I've done is I've set the priority to 100 here. What that means is, let's say, for example, chlorobenzene. Let's say I make chlorobenzene because of some process that happens on demand. I would rather use the chlorobenzene that's in my main storage first and then use this chlorobenzene. So setting the priority high over here makes it so that this is the last place that AE2 wants to consume items from, or fluids. So high priority means that AE2 will prioritize keeping items in the system. Red is my main net, so it's going to try and keep items that are on this yellow subnet in the yellow subnet. So it's going to prioritize taking items from elsewhere first, and only then will it take it from here. If I wanted it to take it from here instead, I would just have to make the priority negative, or as low as possible. Okay, now let's turn this thing on. Absolutely beautiful. So the reason it's flickering like this instead of all being on is because these output caches are slightly not big enough to handle 4 of these going at once. Especially if I overclock it even more, it's going to be even less sufficient. So I need to add like 1K storage cells in here or something, and that should clean this up. And I'm out of salt already. So I need to set up this salt meteor and automate it, and only then can I truly consider this to be complete. I have set up my space mining module. This one has a machine controller cover set to read the amount of chlorine we have and only turn on if we don't have enough. This isn't connected, which is why it's not on, because I want to double check and make sure the rest of my logistics makes sense. So this is pulling helium plasma through a stocking input hatch. It's pulling this mining drone, which is better than making a new mining drone and putting it in an input bus, because this way it can be shared across multiple mining modules. Also steel drill tips and steel rods. The distance is set to 201, and this gives me a 100% chance of getting the salt asteroid, by which I mean this one. So it's going to be mostly salt and saltpeter and also some rock salt. And because this is going to be a dedicated space mining module, I can actually mess with the values here for the network switch. And by doing that, I can precisely provide the exact amount of computation instead of wasting any extra computation. As for handling the products, what I've done is I've set up a couple of drives to be partitioned. These have saltpeter, salt, and rock salt. It might be smart of me to make these even bigger, but for now this is my demonstration. And here I have a void ME storage cell also filtered to salt, saltpeter, and rock salt, but with a -1000 priority. So once these drives are full, only then will items start going into the void cell. This way nothing will ever clog, and in particular the saltpeter will be handled. I've also used an MEIO port set to transfer data to storage cell in order to move everything out of these storage cells into those. At least all the salt, saltpeter, and rock salt. It would be nice to have dedicated drives for every single dust and to just move everything out of these. Right now everything's all mixed up, nothing's partitioned, but it would be pretty nice to have everything be super organized. I'll probably do that in small bits along the way as I automate more and more materials, but for now, this is fine. And now all that's left to do is to actually connect this thing. And now this has come online and it's mining salt. And it's only ever going to mine salt, and it only uses 10,000 EU per tick, which is pretty cool. Now all the ores are coming into this integrated ore factory. These are going to be occupied for quite some time, I think. And these drives are slowly starting to fill up and instantly being processed because it's all going into this electrolysis wall, which is great. So I think everything is working fine now. It's going to be quite a while before my chlorine recovers, I think, but I can already tell it's even faster than it was before. Progress update on the platline stuff. Sifting is still sifting, unsurprising. And I'm down to 1.9 million platinum metallic powder dust. I say down, I think I was lower than this at one point, so it's kind of gone back up. But anyway, this is processing. This is going to keep processing, and I think it's working pretty well. And I'm now at 31,000 osmium, and this is only going to go up. And also my Mark 1 compact fusion controller is done, which means I can scan it and make the Mark 2. Surprisingly, this is pretty much doable. I just need a few more diamonds and a couple of super dense European plates. But the high durability compound steel and the MAR CEM 200 steel, I've made these before, I just don't have fluid extraction recipes. So, wow, totally doable, just need some more diamonds. The Mark II compact fusion controller is done, which means I can make the Mark III, and this is the goal. This is surprisingly almost craftable. Let me encode these few more recipes and then see what the actual cost is. Wow, that's crazy. This is absolutely doable. The controller is basically done. I just need to get a bit more americium, which is not particularly hard. Sadly, I can't do it through space mining yet, and even if I could, it would be kind of shitty because only 5% of this asteroid is going to be americium. and it needs a Mark 10 mining drone, and the Mark 10 needs the whole optical circuit line. So I am basically bound to using meteors for now for more americium, but once I have compact fusion, I can fuse it instead. But cool, nearly done now. Well, for the controller, I still need to make the rest of the multi. Okay, I just spent an absurd amount of time trying to figure this out. I have the most insane meteor automation that detects whether there is a meteor present. And it accounts for rain and day and night and everything. And it works in the overworld. But first, let me go over a much simpler solution. So if you're in the PDIM, it doesn't rain and it's always daytime, right? So you can have a daylight sensor underneath where the meteor would be. And basically, the daylight sensor would be on all the time unless there's a meteor, in which case it would be off. And you can use that redstone signal to turn on the miners. That does not work in the overworld because of the day and night cycle. At night, it's indistinguishable between having a meteor and not having a meteor. So there's not really a simple way to get this to work with just the daylight sensor. Let me show you this monstrosity I've invented. So how do I even explain how this works? So the water tank, the good old water tank from the ye old days. This thing generates water at a specific rate based on the humidity of the center block. And if any of these blocks can see the sky, then there's no penalty to the generation rate. However, if there's a meteor, then this generation rate is penalized. Also, to complicate things, if it rains, the production rate is multiplied by 3. But if it can't see the sky, then you don't get the rain bonus and you get the 50% nerf from not seeing the sky. And that has allowed me to invent this insane technology. So this middle super tank is where it all starts, and you can probably already tell this is some bullshit. So it all starts here in this super tank. This has 3 covers on it, 2 fluid detector covers, and a fluid regulator. So the water tank generates water every 8 ticks. So I'm gonna turn off the rain so I can show you the base rate, and I'll also show you how this deals with the rain. So when the rain is off, it generates 8 liters per 8 ticks, and this fluid regulator dumps 7 of those 8 liters into the trash can immediately. If I just left it like that, this water level would go up. As you can see here, it goes up by 1 every 8 ticks, but I don't want this water tank to fill up too much. So what I do instead is on the right here, I have a little bit of an overflow system. Oh, the rain just started. I'm going to turn it off again. But on the right here, I have a bit of an overflow system. So this fluid detector is set to 32. This is kind of arbitrary. I just kind of got this number by trial and error. I have a fluid detector cover set to 32. So when there's more than 32 liters in here, you get a signal. The signal goes to this super tank, which is basically just a trash can, but it allows me to put covers on it. So there's a machine controller cover and a fluid regulator set to import and to use the machine processing state. And this pulls 16 every 8 ticks. So what happens is it goes to above 32 and then 16 get pulled out and repeat forever. Now what happens when there's a meteor? To simulate the presence of a meteor, I'm just going to place a bunch of bit blocks on top because it's the smallest meteor is going to block this whole thing. To simulate that, I place these bit blocks. Now the current generation rate is halved. So it's 4 for every 8 ticks. And now the super tank is empty because the regulator that's always on is more than 4. So it's just immediately dumping any water that gets generated. And this fluid detector cover, the other one, is set to 8 and inverted. So anytime the contents of the super tank is less than 8, it emits a signal. That goes to a wireless transmitter, and I've named the frequency sky is blocked. So if the sky is blocked, you get a signal. And that turns on the miners. Currently it's not hooked up, that's why they're not running, but yeah, this would turn on the miners. And if I remove the meteor, the water starts to build up again, and it kind of stabilizes above this trigger threshold. But to complicate things, what happens when it's raining? You can see that I have a rain sensor here to deal with this. But what happens when it's raining is the generation rate gets tripled. So now it's 24 every 8 ticks. And if I didn't have this rain sensor, this would not be able to keep up. The water would continue to rise until the super tank got super full, and that in itself is not really a problem. All it means is that when the rain stops and you summon a meteor, it's just going to take forever until the super tank is empty again. And only when it's empty does the signal go out, right, to start the miners. So you just have to wait a long time for it to empty. Instead of that, I have this rain sensor. So if it's raining, it emits a signal, and that goes to another trash can super tank at the bottom. This one has a fluid regulator set to pull 1 every 8 ticks. And 1 every 8 ticks works because 7 plus 16 plus 1 is 24. So this will remain stable. And the nice thing is, let's simulate a meteor again, right? But I'm also going to block the rain sensor. The rain sensor gets turned off when there's a meteor above it. So when the meteor is really small, like almost mined up, this might break, but at that point, does it really matter? I don't think so. And again, this turns on the thing perfectly fine. So now I'm gonna go hook up the top side of this with some cables, and then we can see how it works with a real meteor. Things have been hooked up. I have my receiver, and it's connected to all of the miners. I was doing a bit of testing, that's why this one's already all the way down there. But let's see, let's summon another meteor and see if it works. Meteor has been summoned. It happens to be raining, but that shouldn't matter. Ouch. And there we go, it's come on. And they're mining. Oh, it's so good. I'm so happy. The only thing that may not work is when this meteor is mined up, the signal will go off. So these mining pipes might be extended all the way to the ground. But I think that might be okay, because all that's going to happen is they're going to stay extended. Then I summon another meteor at some point. Pipes will get pulled back up because the signal is still on. And then because the signal is still on, the pipes will extend again. So I'm basically delaying the retraction until I summon another meteor. That's what I expect will happen. I haven't actually tested that. But if it is different, then I'll make a note of it. Otherwise, you can assume that I did test it later on. So nice. Now I just need to summon a few more balls of americium and then we are good. Thank you for watching this episode of the HamCorp training manual. In the next episode, we will finally upgrade the Precise Assembler's casings and craft the Mark III compact fusion reactor. There is a small chance that I decide to make multiple Mark III reactors, but no promises for now. Crafting the reactor seems to be relatively painless, and I take this as a sign that my infrastructure upgrades are sufficient so we can get back to progression. See you next time.